Hey, welcome back to the Dynasty Happy Hour. Thank you for joining us on YouTube and Periscope. If you're tuning in live, boom, hit us with comments, hit us with questions. We will answer them as best we can here on the show. And if you're not watching, you should be every Sunday night, but hopefully you're downloading and listening to this podcast. You're leaving iTunes reviews and you're saying, you know what? This trio is the the greatest trio in all of the Dynasty football land. It's me, Doug. I'm here with Tim, and I'm also here with Tyler. We've got a great show ahead. We are going to cover some stats and stuff, which we always do every week. We got some fun stuff involved there. We've got some fantasy news. And then the bulk of the show is really going to be about planning for a fantasy season with COVID-19. I think this is important because as much as we all want a fantasy season to take place and not be interrupted, I think it's we'd be remiss not to say, like, all right, what if it does happen? The season starts and then players get sick, players go on IR, like the season stops. Like, if you're a commissioner, what do you do? What do you do as a player? How do you approach your teams? Like, there's a lot of different moving parts, and we're going to cover all of them in this week's show. But yeah, I want to, first of all, I want to say hi to Tim and hi to Tyler. Tim, how you doing this evening? You're looking beautiful, young man.
I feel a lot worse than I look. We moved into the new house a few weeks ago, and I spent all week. There's a large shed in the backyard.
Cleaning up the blood?
No blood, not yet. I've taken that large shed. I built 3 stalls in it, and this morning we went and picked up 3 goats and a pig. So
nice.
I'm Farmer Tim now, I guess. I don't know. I grew up in a city. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but the wife and kids want some animals, so here we go.
So you just decided pigs and goat. Hey, let's get an animal. You know what? Hold the phone. I know a goat. I know a goat guy.
The wife has wanted pigs for as long as I can remember, and the school year's ended, but my oldest daughter's Spanish teacher sent a message out to all our students. Hey, I have a friend who's getting rid of some goats if anybody's interested. And so my daughter immediately goes to Mom. Hey, Mom, look, goats. And she's like, "Ooh, we should get these goats. They're little tiny mini goats. The little one's really cute. The mom's pretty cute.
The little goats are super cute."
So we go to look at these goats probably a week ago, and there was a pig there. And the lady that's giving away the goats or selling the goats, whatever it was, says, "I also have this pig." And I look at my wife and I'm like, "Absolutely, I'm getting the pig." She's about 5 years old. Her name's Wilma. She's a full-grown potbelly. So she's about 150 pounds. She doesn't put up with the goat's trash. She lets him have it. And that one's mine. Wilma's mine. She's smart as hell. She doesn't take no crap.
Pigs are very smart animals.
So, yes.
And they also taste amazing.
I was going to say, and
yeah, if she gets a little older and looks like she's going to go away.
Hey, if you're going to have a pig roast, I expect my phone to ring and be like,
I don't get attached to things too easily. So Wilma, I'll love you until it's time to not love you anymore, and then I'm sure you'll taste just great.
Absolutely. Tyler, what's new up in the Minnesota?
Oh, nothing. Same old, busy as always, dealing with this COVID stuff. I've been to the doctor more times than I should be.
Good news, I think, right?
I had to get my plasma checked, which I could have been superhuman to the COVID because I had a false positive, and it came up negative. So I have not had it yet, but there was a call there where I actually could have been able to donate my plasma. I was kind of disappointed, to be honest, because I'm like, I could help, in the fight, but no negative.
Gotcha. I heard people with red hair don't really get it. So
yeah, we just get burnt.
The COVID's like, ew, red hair.
Yeah, it was 94 degrees here in Rhode Island today, and I was outside, no sunscreen today, in the pool. Luckily, I have I'm a nice crispy brown. I'm not really burnt yet, so if I can't tone it, I'll tan it. That's my theory. I just started getting back to the gym, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna look better with, a little bit nice tan going on.
We can't tell, so we need to start a GoFundMe to get you a damn lamp at least in your room.
The lighting. Here's the thing. The lighting in this room isn't the greatest. There's one lamp ahead of me. It has 2 bulbs in it. They're LED.
You need to bring up the Kelvins. that it's
Bring
showing
the
on.
The Kelvin scale.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe a GoFundMe to get me to like a floor lamp or something.
Hashtag light up Doug.
Let's light up Doug.
Light me up. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I'm excited this week, not only because we get to sit and chat and talk about football, but we have our sponsor, which we've had for a while in Dynasty Owner. But we have a new sponsor, which we'll talk about in a little while. But first, we are brought to you this week partially by Dynasty Owner. I've been looking for a new challenge, which is why I'm playing Dynasty Owner Fantasy Football this season. Dynasty Owner Fantasy Football unites the fun and excitement of fantasy football with the skill and strategy of the front office. Dynasty Owner is the only way to play fantasy football with real NFL salaries, adding the strategy of running an NFL franchise. And Dynasty Owner provides a unique challenge for diehard fantasy football fanatics. Go to www.dynastyowner.com/DHH. Leagues are forming at this moment. That's dynastyowner.com/DHH. We've all been in a league where the winner just got lucky. If you're like me and you know better than most, Dynasty Owner gives you the platform to prove it. Dynasty Owner favors skilled players who can manage their roster using real NFL salaries within the salary cap. It adds an entirely new level of strategy. So once again, go to dynastyowner.com/DHHH. Validate your fantasy football skills. If you haven't heard it before, it's dynastyowner.com/DHH. Dynasty Owner, start your dynasty. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Do it today. You heard it here first. Let's go. All right, so we do have some news. We had a big signing. It was franchise tag week, so we're going to talk about a couple of those players that either got tagged and signed an extension or just got tagged and it's business as usual. Really, the only player to sign a long-term deal of fantasy, any kind of fantasy relevance, was Derrick Henry. So he signed a 4-year, $50 million deal, $25.5 million guaranteed. I think this kind of sets the bar for the Dalvin Cooks of the world, which are coming up on free agents, the Joe Mixons of the world. It kind of should put them in similar situations from a pay scale, I would think, for those guys to get paid after the season. So my question for you guys is, does this stability raise him in your dynasty ranks, Tim?
If you look at the contract, I think it's pretty much a 2-year deal for the team. After the 2022 season, the Titans can get away without too much of a cap hit. So I think for the short term, if we're talking this next 1 to 2 years, that yes, Derrick Henry should be a running back. You should be targeting. I think that the Titans will more than likely fall somewhere between what you saw in the regular season from them and what you saw in the playoffs from them, where Derrick Henry he set records for the amount of touches he was getting in playoff games. But he did have 302 carries, I want to say, last year. It's coming off the top of my head. I might be a little bit off there, but a guy that has that many carries, you want to be a little bit cautious with. But the Titans seem to enjoy his company, and they've paid a decent price to keep him around. So if the Titans are going to invest $25 million guaranteed in a player, I'm willing to bet that at least for the next 2 years, he's going to continue to see the ball at a very high rate, and we've seen what he can do when he gets those opportunities.
So my question to you, Tyler, same question. Obviously, does this stability raise him in your dynasty ranks? But also, I know you're a big Darrynton Evans guy. So is this kind of like, I think the Darrynton Evans people were like, all right, if Derrick Henry leaves, then maybe Darrynton Evans can be the guy. I never really thought that because I don't think Darrynton Evans can be that guy. But what are your thoughts on the stability, and what are your thoughts on Darrynton Evans going forward, Tyler?
I still like him. I think he's a fine third down back. Derrick Henry had 18 catches last year, if that.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
Yeah, it's not much. And I think they're going to want to use the running back in that aspect as well. And Darrynton Evans was the third round pick. They're not just going to kind of throw him off and be like, no, we don't need you
unless
anymore.
His name is Damian Harris.
Yeah, that's very true. And the coach is Bill Belichick, which it's close. Darrington starts with a D. Vrabel was
for Belichick.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We're connecting the dots here.
We're connecting the dots. Yeah, it all makes sense.
We're having a national treasure moment right here. All we're missing is Nick Cage. But
I'm okay with that.
Darrynton Evans, I still think is fine. He'll get his touches. I think he'll get catches. He'll easily have more catches than Derrick Henry. I think they'll have have specific plays for him. But Derrick Henry is going to run the ball a ton. Does he go up in my rankings? I was never a Henry guy, and it's always been hard for me to rank him because he doesn't catch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and people knock Nick Chubb for that, but I think Nick Chubb is a better pure runner than Derrick Henry from the eye test. So for me, I don't know. I'd maybe bump up a few spots, but I'm pretty sure he'd probably stay where he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think with my internal rankings, I don't rank for the site anymore, but I would say that I wouldn't really bump Henry up too much. I think he would have a similar role no matter what team he went to, and it would just be a matter of like the offense. And that offensive line is pretty strong with Tennessee. Their run-first offense. I feel if Derrick Henry were to move on in free agency, he would only go to a team that was going to be something similar. Maybe he would have replaced Dalvin Cook in Minnesota type of thing. Like that would have been like the kind of move that I think Derrick Henry would have made if he was a free agent. But so I don't see this really bumping him up too much in my personal rankings. So next bit of news is also about another franchised player. It's AJ Green. He signed his franchise tender and he says he will show up to camp on time. Fingers crossed. So what I want to know is how should we view AJ Green for 2020? Is he a wide receiver too? Is he a flex option with immense upside? Tyler, how are you viewing AJ Green in 2020 with that new quarterback, Joe Burrow?
That's the thing is I think he might struggle right off the bat. You know, Joe Burrow's a rookie. He's not going to have that time to connect with AJ Green. I know there's rumors that they have been working together, you know, behind closed doors. So that could help. But it's going to take a little while for a connection. Andy Dalton and AJ Green came in together in the league together. They had an instant connection. They worked constantly, it seemed, in the offseason. So they had more of a connection. Andy Dalton just threw it up to AJ Green and said, "Okay, dude, here you go." That was when AJ Green was in his prime. He's had multiple lower body injuries. Who knows how much oomph he's got left? So I want to see it. I think he could be a viable wide receiver 3 for your team. But other than that, if you're expecting him to be a high-end wide receiver 2, I think you're going to be very disappointed.
Mm-hmm. What do you, Tim, if you're trying to go out and acquire AJ Green on a win now team, what do you think, a mid-second?
On a win now? If I'm in that window, yeah. I'd say my second round pick if I'm on a win now, because I'm looking at probably 2.8 or later. Would be my opinion there. But yeah, I would say I completely agree with Tyler. I was thinking he would go with a wide receiver 2 pick there, but it's a wide receiver 3 with the upside of the flex position, hoping he has some boom weeks because, it's not a brand new offense, but he didn't play much with this offense last year. Brand new quarterback. We haven't seen him in a while. So hopefully that, they can get AJ Green acclimated and in here with this offense and with this quarterback and coaching staff. And I don't expect him to be what he used to be, obviously, at this age. But if he's 75% or better of that, then yeah, I think that
pretty good.
wide receiver flex spot's probably a solid pick for him.
Yep, I agree with both of you gentlemen. So now is the section of the show where Tyler, you have to look out for Tyler because you might get poked in the eye. So Rojo has added 6 to 8 pounds of muscle. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? I don't know. We'll talk about it. He weighed 205 when he entered the league as a second-round pick in 2018. He weighed 218 pounds last season, and now he's reportedly at 225. Does this matter at all? Like, any thoughts on this potentially helping his pass protection? And is that his biggest red flag? Like, I'm going to go to Tyler on this one, Tim, because Tyler is one of the original Rojo stans. Mm-hmm. So I want to hear Tyler's opinion on the adding muscle, because we've seen that work with some players, but it seems like it hasn't worked with a lot of players too. So Tyler, I want your spin on this one. Do you think it helps with pass pro? Do you think that's even his biggest problem? Like, give me your assessment on this Rojo news and what you think.
Man, 225 is pretty heavy for what you saw from Rojo at USC. Now, my first thought was Melvin Gordon in Wisconsin was a very speedy back. He was very agile, and he could beat anybody in a foot race. And Melvin Gordon
still skipped leg day back then.
Yeah, and Melvin Gordon he worked with AP, and it seemed like his upper body became massive. He gained some weight. It reminds me a lot of that. Melvin Gordon is no longer this speedster back. He's more of a finesse type guy, a guy that catches the ball, gets 4 yards per carry or under. It just kind of eats away at it, and it doesn't seem like he breaks too many big plays. You know what I mean with Melvin Gordon? Like, you kind of expected more from his college tape. And Rojo, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Is Rojo's going down that path of somebody who just is becoming a different running back, and I'm not sure if I like it. I think he's trying to change himself too much from what he was in college, and when that happens, I'm usually more skeptical. And with Rojo, I'm becoming more skeptical. And I mean, he's saying his hands are better. Did his hands gain weight too? Like, does that help you catch the ball? I'm not quite sure.
Maybe they grew stronger because they're more muscular.
That could be. But Keyshawn Vaughn is a phenomenal pass catcher. So I think despite him getting his hands better, I think Keyshawn Vaughn's probably got that role, tucked in his pocket. Rojo will probably play that Sony Michel role.
Don't forget Dare.
I have. I have. But Rojo's he's got the first and second down backs, but his price in redraft right now, I know this is a Dynasty podcast, but his price in redraft is pretty reasonable. And I honestly think
I'll tell you, even his price, not to cut you off, but even his price in Dynasty.
Yeah.
So in the offseason, I picked up Keyshawn Vaughn and Capitalist Pigs 2. It was like the only rookie that I won because the price wasn't terrible. And I needed running back help. So I went out and acquired Rojo, and I gave up Naheem Hines and like a 4th-round pick, which is the equivalent of like $15 to get Rojo. And I thought that was it because I'm not a big Hines guy. So now Tampa Bay's backfield locked up. But if that's all I got to get Rojo is Naheem Hines and maybe another player or a pick or a little bit of cash, like I'm all for that.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. His price is really good. And for a guy who, I mean, if I'm going to project him at anything, 900 yards, 8 touchdowns. I mean, that's a pretty good price for a guy you could probably spot start in matchups and all that. So, I mean, he's not invaluable.
And then he's got some upside too.
Yeah, he's not invaluable. I just don't know if I like the route he's going with his career.
Any thoughts on Rojo, Tim?
Well, let me take you back to 2015 when a running back named Bishop Sankey was putting on some weight for the Tennessee Titans, going from reportedly about 209 to about the 220 range. How'd that work out? I've never been the world's biggest.
How good was he when he was 209 though?
How good has Rojo been? Not very.
Hurt.
I've never been the world's biggest Rojo fan to begin with. Pre-draft, I thought that Keyshawn Vaughn was better than people thought he was. And then he landed in Tampa, and I was like, yay, I'm happy. And then his stock price just soared to a spot where I'm like,
shut up.
Ow, I don't know if I like that. So I kind of backed off of him a little bit. But I think given a year or two that my guy Keyshawn could take the lead role in this backfield from Rojo. I do think especially to start the season, and we'll kind of get into these reasons here a little bit later why, that Keyshawn Vaughn's going to kind of play that second fiddle at least to start the season. And I agree with Doug. Yeah. Again, not a big Rojo fan, but because of the Keyshawn Vaughn acquisition, his stock going up, it kind of forced other stock prices down for Rojo, and I was buying this offseason.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Yeah, like once I knew that price, I floated that off. I was like, oh, okay, this is as bad as I thought it would be. Last bit of news, unfortunate news. We had Calvin Harmon tear his ACL of the not yet named Washington football team. Real quick, before we go into Calvin Harmon, Tim, if you could pick a name for the Washington football team, what would it be? You got to have a favorite.
I really do like the Red Tails. The history behind the name, especially with everything that's going on. I don't think we need to pick a name for a football team based off of any sort of political statements or anything like that. But it doesn't hurt that with what's going on right now in this country, a name like the Red Tails is fitting, especially for the Washington team. I don't think I've seen
Yeah,
it.
Tyler, do you have a favorite in the clubhouse?
Oh god, Red Wolves, I think it was. That I love
I like
the
the Red Wolves,
jerseys.
too.
That the jersey was great. Great job on the people picking up that trademark and copyright before Washington could snag it.
The lawyer from Alexandria. Yeah.
That was phenomenal. Now they're gonna have to pay up.
Yeah.
That dude is going to be like
It's a smart
filthy
move.
rich,
Smart
filthy
move.
rich. Because
Yeah.
I think that's what they're gonna go with.
Yeah.
a great
We've
move.
got Russell Mavis says Red Wolves too. I like the Red Wolves as well. I think we've got the Timberwolves in Minnesota, but other than that, there's really not many other wolf. And a wolf is a badass animal. Let's be
NC
honest.
State.
We all love dogs, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
the wolf pack. There's
Yeah.
a whole
Wolf
pack
pack.
of them. There's not just one. Wolf pack.
Wolves are
I mean,
fun to
it's not like
watch.
the.
Wolves are fun to watch when they're in cages, like at the zoo. Well, I don't like watching them in like. It's wrong that they're in cages.
Have you seen that Liam
Just
Neeson
way to
movie with wolves?
backpedal.
Yes, but I know I had a extra. In today's economy, you got to backpedal as quick as you can. You got to remember that, Tim. But no, the wolves are awesome. Like they're like gigantic dogs, and just watching them play. Like we have a zoo really close to us, and that's my daughter's favorite place to watch. She loves just sitting and watching them when they're up and about walking. But yeah, I mean, massive animals.
Tim, any desire to add a wolf to the farm? Yeah, you got some farm defense
wolves.
going on.
I've always wanted to
Alright,
wrestle a
checking.
bear, declaw a bear, and let me have a shot.
The good thing is if you had a wolf, you wouldn't have to worry about the 3 goats and pig.
That's true. But after he eats those, he's going to want
great
more
point.
food, and I have kids.
That's
so
true.
Then I'm out there fighting a wolf.
Yeah. He was in line to possibly get the second most targets in the Washington Redskins passing game. We all know Terry McLaurin, who's amazing, was going to be the target hog there. We've got Steven Sims, who a lot of people like. They drafted Antonio Gandy. They drafted Antonio Gandy Golden. There's really not out there pass catchers. We don't know who's going to be the tight end. Is it Jeremy Sprinkle? Is it Thaddeus Moss? Is it Logan Thomas, the former quarterback? Like, there's a lot of question marks with this Washington pass catching.
Logan Thomas
core.
is still in the league. That's all. I remember when
I picked him up in the league.
I remember when he was supposed to be a good quarterback.
Yep, now he might be their starting tight end. Who knows? Obviously, they draft Antonio Gibson, who right now officially a running back. Do they move receiver? Who knows? So, Tim, who do you think this helps the most with them losing Calvin Harmon? Whose stock goes up here?
Yeah, we just got Dingus in the chat here saying the Gandy man, and I have to agree with that.
I don't know if I like that.
Man,
That sounds very weird to me. Hey, Gandy, man.
I don't think there's a ton of talent outside of Terry, and unless one of these running backs, I don't really remember Darius Geis's game revolving around receptions that much. I mean, he's a great running back,
No.
but AP's
Well, that
never
LSU
been a pass
offense
catcher.
didn't.
Yeah. AP's just
Bryce
never
Love?
caught the ball. Chris Thompson's gone.
Bryce Love.
Maybe Bryce Love, but
Antonio
And they got
Gibson.
JD McBisquick too.
Antonio Gibson is the man. If
You
they're
think?
gonna use a pass catcher, yeah.
maybe
Yeah,
at the
I
back-
heard Terrell
think-
Pryor's trying to get back into the league. Maybe he wants a reunion.
I
Maybe they
think,
sign AB.
I think at the receiver position, it has to be Antonio Golden Gandy. That's going to get the bump here. It's just going to be a rough start for the Washington football team, being AGG is a rookie.
Yep.
I
But at least he already
disagree.
had COVID, so that's good.
I'm with Sims. I mean, how many Sims have we had? As much as the computer game? So we're at like 5.
We had Charles Sims.
There's been like 5 Sims in the NFL. As much as there
Billy
have been,
Sims. He was a really good running back
computer
back
game.
in the day.
yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna have to say Antonio Gibson. Dingus in the chat says he's special with the ball in the hands. That's what I saw. Dude is like 225.
We're going to
6
talk
foot.
about something else that's special with the balls in the hands here.
That is
Yeah.
true. Good
In a little bit.
transition.
That's why I'm good at what I do. Humble brag. Oh, yes. I think Antonio. It's going to be interesting to see how they deploy Gibson in that offense, and who is going to be their pass catcher? Is it going to be J.D. McKissick? Is it going to be Bryce Love? Like
Darius
There's so
Geis's
many-
quad.
which looks like is the size of my bicep, which is really great.
Yeah,
but it's the size of his own bicep. It's amazing. Darius Geis for life. So let's get into some stats and stuff here because it's time. So I'm going to give you the info for the two mystery players. Either of you guys will have to decide which player you prefer. If you think you know, you can also guess the players after everyone else has answered. I'll reveal at the end who they are and their ADPs. Are you boys ready to play?
Always.
Go ahead.
Lego. So player A, this soon-to-be 23-year-old averaged just under 19 touches per game from week 8 to 17 last season. And during that time span, weeks 8 to 17, this player was RB21. This player had just over 150 carries last year and had a 5.1 yards per carry. Let's go to player B. This soon-to-be 25-year-old has had weird efficiency of his career. That might be a typo. Efficiency in his career in 2019 with only 3.3 yards per carry and 5.8 yards per reception. But they had 4.5 and 10.2 respectively in 2018. Despite this inefficiency, this player still finished as RB27 in 2019, just out of the RB2 range. This player has never had less than 53 receptions in any of his 3 NFL seasons. So the first question I'm going to go to you, Tim, is which player would you rather have? Player A or player B?
How old was player A?
Player A is soon to be 23.
I think I know who they are, but you can go ahead, Tim.
I'll take player A in the youth here.
Okay.
The 5.1 yards per carry is what attracts me. The other guy, 3.3, is not good. I don't really have a lead on either player too, so okay. I couldn't even tell you like what kind of offensive lines are behind.
I mean, I'll take Devin Singletary as well.
Yes, player A is Devin Singletary. Do either of you guys have a guess as to who player B is?
Tariq Cohen. That's my guess.
Oh, look at Tyler.
Woo!
Oh, wow. Tyler absolutely drilling it out of the park.
Oh, the catches, the Neverland, whatever. What was it?
53.
I feel wicked smart.
Yeah.
Wicked smart kid. So good Devin Singletary's DLF ADP is currently RB27, which we've seen that fall a little bit since they drafted Zach Moss. And then player B is Tariq Cohen, and his DLF ADP is RB36. Now, I am a Tariq Cohen owner in the Scott Fish Bowl. I got him super late, and I like his upside. A sneaky 79 catches last year. Had some problems running in between the tackles. I actually did some research on Tariq Cohen, read some interviews that he's done, and he knows that he needs to be more of a north-south runner and not as much east-west, and that he did play injured last year, and towards the end of the season, he started to wear down. So he's been working this offseason to help prevent that this year, and he is going into a free agency year. So I think Tariq Cohen is an interesting buy in Dynasty. If you're a win now team and you're looking for a solid flex play, I think you can get Tariq Cohen pretty inexpensively, and I think he's probably going to see 75 receptions again. I mean, it's just him and David Montgomery in that backfield, right? And then with Singletary, we've seen his stock slip a little bit because they did draft Zach Moss, so that kind of took a little bit of the shine off the apple. So I know you're a big Singletary guy, Tyler. Did them drafting Zach Moss, who you absolutely do not like, or at one point didn't like at all, do you think that affects Singletary in a big bad way? Are you still buying Devin Singletary at his ADP?
Oh, I'm still going to buy. I mean, Moss is going to take some goal line carries away.
So is Josh Allen.
I mean, the new Cam Newton, even though you shouldn't compare him to Cam Newton. I don't. But no, Singletary is a very talented running back. Very, very talented. He showed it on the field, and yet people still doubt him. I don't get that. He played very well. He's efficient. I think that he's going to take another step. He learned from Frank Gore, and Frank Gore even said midseason, he reminds me of me when I was younger, a guy that just wanted to be better, wanted to get
50
better.
50 years ago when I started in the league.
Yeah. Back in 1932 when I was a rookie.
Did you see that tweet this week? How Frank Gore was like, why you got to do me like that? Like they tweeted some like old timey running back, and it's like, oh, happy birthday to when Frank Gore was first in the league, and he retweeted it. It was actually pretty funny.
Didn't see that, but funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
Singletary is very talented, and it's funny because I was not on Singletary for his tape, and then I saw his first game in the NFL, and I said I was wrong. Like when he got more touches, I said I was wrong. This guy is very talented. when I first watched him on the NFL field, I was sold. That's why I bought him a lot in mid-season last year before he came back healthy, and he tore it up. So give me Singletary with that Moss discount. Moss will get touchdowns. I think Moss will be around 600 yards, probably like 7 touchdowns, but I do think Singletary is going to get that pass catching role, and he's going to get majority of touches.
Yeah. Well, that was a fun little game of stats and stuff. I would probably pick player A as well if the choice were given to me. And I do like Tariq Cohen as a buy low candidate here in Dynasty. So, for sure. Especially the opportunities, like I said, are there. So yes, now we are here to bring you our second sponsor, first-time sponsor of Dynasty Happy Hour. So support for Dynasty Happy Hour is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Oh, yes. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and it rhymes, and I'm so on time. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. So I can tell you probably the most horrifying story I've ever had with grooming is I like to keep it trimmed down there, and sometimes you use your razor that you use on your face. Now, always use it on your face first. That's the rule, and then down below after, just not
vice versa. Don't use
the same way. The same way you wash your face first, and then you wash down there, not reverse. If you've ever used like a fresh razor on your face and it feels great, and then you go down there and you're kind of just going around, and if you've ever nicked yourself down there, it bleeds like a mother. So it's better to use
artery.
Tool.
I mean,
it is a very vascular area. So you have to be really super careful. And Manscaped is going to give you that confidence where you can take care of it. You don't have to worry about nicking anything. You don't have to worry about like, oh, now I'm a bloody mess. Like, this isn't fun. And that's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created and just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce manscaping accidents thanks to Manscaped's advanced skin safe technology. Say that 10 times fast. When I tell you this is premium, I mean it's absolutely the best in the business. The battery will last up to 90 minutes, so you can take a longer shave. Maybe it's been a while. Maybe you're Rip Van Winkle and you're like, and your wife is like, bruh, I know COVID-19 is going on, and that's not an excuse not to shave your downstairs. But it'll go 90 minutes if you need it. Or maybe, you're going to have a shave party. Whatever you're into, that's cool too. The water-resistant technology allows you to groom in the shower. So if you want to multitask, boom, boom, quick cleanup, watch it go down the drain. Totally get that. One of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates areas for a closer and more precise trimming. So maybe you want to set the mood, turn the lights down low. Maybe you want to hand the razor over to your loved one and say, hey, have at it, babe. Now she can see what's going on. You've got mood lighting. Nope. Oh, win-win. Nope. So they've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. Now, Tim, I imagine you just coining that quiet stroke. It seems like something you would think of.
I know about the quiet stroke.
Yes, you did live in that house for a while by yourself. Yeah. And let's not forget about the charging stand. Show your off loud and proud, because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock. One of our favorite words in this part is dock. Powered by USB. Now, if you're listening to me speak right now, first of all, thank you. I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Okay. Trim that junk of yours. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code DHH at manscaped.com. You know who's going to thank you? Your balls will thank you. Mm-hmm. So now let's get into the news. So we want to talk this week about talking fantasy football in a COVID world. I said it here a few weeks ago. I've said it on my other podcast, Trophy Time. I'm super skeptical about what's going to go on this season. As much as in my heart of hearts, I want the season to kick off. There be no interruption. No players get sick. It's a perfect world, just like it was last year. We just have to be realistic and say, you know what? That's not the world we live in 2020. How do we prepare ourselves for when a player that you have on your roster gets COVID and the league shuts down for an amount of time? Like what's going on with NHL and NBA and MLB, who are finally just starting to come back now. There's going to be a lot of interesting things here. And I want to talk a little bit about from a team owner standpoint, as well as a commissioner standpoint. So Tyler, I'm going to go to you first from a commissioner lens, because you're a commissioner in a few different leagues. So when you're looking at all right, all this information is in front of me, COVID-19, It's not slowing down really. There's hot spots all over the place. What is it going to look like? What do I need to do as a commissioner to help me prepare my league in the best way possible for when the season does start? What are the things I'm trying to plan to get me prepped as a commissioner to make sure that all of my owners are sorted out and we're not making up stuff on the fly?
So my first thought was, depending on the league, like Doug, we are in a contract salary league, and I straight up said, hey, if there's no season, everything's staying the same, salaries aren't moving, contracts aren't going down 1 year after the season.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just transfer them over. So that was my first thought. And then second thought was, if there's no season, there will be no buy-in. So the season's just pretty much going to get skipped. I'll still have tradings open and all that. You can still pick some players. I don't care. Let's keep that rolling. Let's keep some movement in the league going, because you don't want a league to kind of die off because there's going to be a lot of leagues, if there is no football, that just disappear, because if there's nothing going on, especially in a home league, that if there's not even, there's not much going on anyways. I mean,
you have those guys that disappear over the summer normally anyways, and now they have just 24 months, 36 months without.
Yeah, it could be a lot of orphans.
Yes,
sure.
Orphans. There's going to be a lot of leagues dispersing. It's going to be crazy if there's no football. And say 3 weeks in there, the season stops. It's going to be the same rule. I mean, if the season ends 3 weeks in, you're reimbursed your money. There's going to be, unless you talk to your owners, you could be like, hey, let's roll this into next year and have a big pot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like say, hey, let's take that money. Let's go to trophysmack.com. Let's use code DHH ring. Let's get a big trophy. Let's get a free ring.
If we have any left over, we buy one of them lawnmower 3.0s and we have one of those shave parties Doug told us about.
Boom.
Yeah, buddy.
Bam.
Tyler, I got a question for you. Have you thought about, because I actually had this come up in the home league that I run, which is a similar contract league and salary cap. What do you do about the draft order if there's no season? You can't have it the same as you did the year before. That's not fair.
It's tempting, but I'd probably do a lottery with the same order. There's sites where you can actually do a lottery, and the worst team has a greater chance of getting it. And you can actually decide how many, like the NBA style, like there's 25 balls for this team. You can decide that.
Tyler's going to frozen envelope himself into the 101.
Yeah.
If you know anything about NBA history, you understand the frozen envelope reference. And Tyler's don't play in a league with Tyler. He's going to frozen envelope himself into the 101.
But no, I would probably go that. I would go with that route, and I think that's the smartest route, because even if the worst team, does get better, if the worst team was bad, I mean, there's a hard chance he's going to be top 4 next year. So I think he still deserves a greater chance of being in the top 3, which that's where I'd kind of circulate the picks around. If I want to give the most balls to a team, it'd be the top 3 or the bottom 3 from last season. And they probably deserve the earlier picks more. I mean, I know that means Trevor Lawrence, and everybody's going to try to tank for Trevor. This could stop a lot of people kind of tanking for Trevor.
Mm-hmm. That's something we have to kind of talk about. Let's say they get the season off. You would have to think that at any point, in any moment, they could just say, too many players are getting sick. We got to cut the season. How do you play the season out? Because not every league is going to go the same way that Tyler's talking about. They might go off, hey, we played 5 weeks. These are standing after 5 weeks. We'll go in reverse order of these standings. You have those teams that start off 4-1 and miss the playoffs. You have those teams that start 1-4, make a pretty sweet deal or make a waiver wire pickup, and they roll right into the playoffs. And then they hope to go on a run, but whatever. And then you have those teams that are just kind of stuck in the middle. So how would you guys go about playing the season? If it goes off the board, how you going about it? You going all in if you think you're close?
I mean, so you're saying that if the season were to end, how would you go?
The season starts next Sunday, let's say. But
Okay.
in this current climate, literally, it could go 1 week and they'll be like, we tried. Literally, we had 75 players get sick the first week we tried this. We have to shut it down before everybody gets deathly ill, coaches, family members, all that good stuff. Or it could go 10 weeks and they shut it down. So if the season starts next week, you're in a team that, was just barely in the playoffs or made a deep playoff run last year. Are you selling out to try to get it done? If you're in a league that says, hey, if it's 4 weeks or more, we'll go off the final points for standings and that'll be our champ.
I'm probably going to go youth heavy. I mean, I'm not going to, I think with the way everything has gone, I'm going to stay away from the AJ Green trades. I'm going to stay away from the Tom Brady trades, the Drew Brees trades. I'm going to avoid those guys like Aaron Rodgers, and I'm going to go for the youth people. So players like Drew Lock, who say the season only goes 3 games, he's still going to be the starter next year. What's
going to be awesome about a guy like Drew Lock, if the season only goes 3-4 weeks and he looks kind of meh, iffy. Guess what? It's 3 or 4 weeks of him with all these new fancy toys. Guess what? They probably weren't in sync. So if that's when there's going to be buying windows. So if you thought that Drew Lock was going to have a good season this year and it looked like, hey, he didn't look so great, he's going to have a whole nother offseason with these guys.
Yeah, I think the tricky thing is if there's going to be like, say they play 3 or 4 games, and I think they'll eventually pick it back up again, just like the NBA has done. Obviously, here's the thing. I think the NFL is going to be very interesting to watch because it feels to me that like they're just going to do what they want to do no matter what. And if players get sick, so be it. But they're so stuck on their timelines and starting when they're going to start and making they're going to try to keep it as normal as possible and just be completely stubborn about it. And there is a growing concern amongst NFL players. There's been some
Twitter.
Yeah, there's been coordinated Twitter postings where a host of NFL players criticized the league's coronavirus plan or COVID-19. So this is from Roto-World. It says more specifically, the league's lack of a plan is what they're worried about. If the NFL doesn't do their part to keep players healthy, there is no football in 2020, were the words of Drew Brees, amongst many others, including J.J. Watt to Russell Wilson. They all took part in this effort. In Watt's post, he said players still do not know how a positive COVID-19 test will be handled or how the league might handle opt-outs. The league is still trying to claim players will report as usual this week, but the number of unresolved critical issues is massive. Now, one of the things I heard this week was that players will have the option by August 1st if they want to opt out of the season. So now I don't know if that's true or not, but can you imagine, like, this is when we talk about roster construction. I know, Tyler, you like to build your rosters deep for depth, just in case you have injuries and things like that. So you can imagine, like, a player like, let's use Carson Wentz, for instance. So in Major League Baseball, we've seen players that have very young children, like Buster Posey. He's got 2 twins that are very young, and he said, you know what, I'm not playing, I'm not putting them at risk. Well, I think Carson Wentz had a baby not too long ago.
Yes, he did.
So if he says, you know what, like, I'm not playing because I'm not going to put my family and my young child at risk,
Philadelphia might win a Super Bowl. I'm kidding.
True. I mean, he could opt out of the season, and then, I'll
take it.
You get Jalen Hurts. Like, that could happen. These are the wild things that you just have to be, you're not going to be prepared for it. Let's be honest. There's going to be some sort of monumental player that says, oh yeah, I'm not going to play. And for whatever reason, and you know what? That's on them. I'm not going to be mad at them. Like, if that's what they feel is right to keep their family and themselves safe, like, awesome. That's great. I mean, as much as it stinks in fantasy, like, this is a weird time that we live in.
You know what's going to be rough is seeing the Twitter hate for that.
Oh yeah.
Let's say Carson Wentz, everybody that drafted him, not everybody that drafted him in the Scott Fish Bowl, but let's say 3% of the folks that drafted Carson Wentz in the Scott Fish Bowl are going to go out on Twitter and be like, how did you do this to me? I'm going to need you this season. Like, you don't have any right to tell anybody, get out there and play a game and possibly put your family at risk. Yeah, this is...
Yeah. Like, chill out. It's just a game. It's for fun. It's not like be all end all. I get it. It sucks. Like, totally. I understand that. That's why I've been trying to prepare myself with this mindset of, like, I'm starting to get excited. I just finished my Scott Fish Bowl draft. We've had our drafts going on. Like, I'm getting excited for fantasy football coming, but part of me is like, don't get too excited because you might just get disappointed. So I think that's the important thing is if you have this mindset of like, hey, it's going to be great if the season starts, and if we get a full season, awesome. But just know there's going to be a pretty hefty percentage chance that A, players that you want aren't going to play, B, they're going to get sick, or C, the whole league's going to get shut down because they didn't prepare properly, which sure as hell sounds like that's what's happening in the NFL right now, is that they're just being this monster, this cocky monster that's like, hey, you know what? We're just going to do what we do, and we're just going to push on through. And I think it's going to reach ahead with the players a lot, like it's kind of starting to reach ahead like with the NBA and MLB. It's going to be a point where it's going to get ugly, and it's going to be interesting to see when that point is. And I think you just have to try to prepare for the things that you don't expect, like as best you can. We don't know what's going to happen, but just know that, like, hey, hopefully you got deep rosters. So if we do get a season off, like, all right, well, you know what? Like, if Carson Wentz doesn't play, that stinks. I understand, but hey, you know what? Maybe I drafted Jalen Hurts in my league, so he'll be my starter now, or maybe I'm good at quarterback anyway. Like, and just be like, you know what? Try to make the best of it. I think is going to be important.
Makes me sick to my stomach thinking of no football. Like it really.
Same
does.
Here.
Yeah, I was thinking about this like from multiple levels earlier today. Like let's talk about high school football for a second. I know California. There's spots in California they're talking about they won't even play.
Texas,
they're just not gonna. They're not going to risk these young men and women's lives, along with their families, along with the coaches and their families, for a game. I know for some high schools with big programs, this brings money into these schools. The games on Friday nights, Saturday nights, things like that. But so for those high school players, those kids that were juniors last year going into their senior seasons, they're thinking, hey, I got some attention from Akron and Toledo, Buffalo, some smaller D1 schools. If I have a big senior season, maybe I get a Notre Dame, maybe I get an Ohio State come calling, those sort of things. So now you're going to have these kids that would have been in their senior seasons. Maybe there's going to be some sort of like 7-on-7 things that maybe can go off in the spring. But at that point, I think it's too late for the colleges. So it's going to be a lot of these kids having to self-promote, put things out there on Twitter. So I would say if you see a young kid throwing a highlight video of himself out there, help him out, throw him out, retweet, maybe it gets to some recruiter somewhere, get some eyes on the guy. For the colleges, I know the Big East is saying they're going to play a conference-only schedule.
Big Ten as well.
Yeah, I think they're going to be even lucky to do that. Like,
I don't even see that happening. So again, you got these guys that went back for their senior seasons, their junior seasons in college, because they were told that they would have been like a round 5, round 6 pick. The guys that would have been an early pick that decided to stay.
Etienne.
Etienne, Chuba, these sort of guys that would have been at least at worst a 3rd round pick.
Sure.
They're going to maintain their draft stock no matter what. These guys that would have been a 5th or 6th round pick if they had come out, we're hoping to go back, have one more decent season, and maybe bump from the 5th up to the 3rd or the 2nd or something like that. They're not going to get to put anything else on tape. If these colleges get off the ground, how many of these kids are going to go? It's conference only. So you got a Big Ten player. He plays 3 or 4 games. He has 3 or 4 decent games and says, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah.
Before I have a bad game, before I roll my ankle, before I get COVID, I'm shutting it down. I'm walking away. You saw what you needed to see. This is what I've done. Here's my resume. Come get me now. That's going to do things. And then if college doesn't go, you got like the Ivy League schools talking about spring ball. But what does that do with the NFL scouting timeline, the draft, all that sort of thing?
So many, a lot of players, a lot of college players are going to sit. I know Ray G, Ray Garvin. He even said, if they do play in the spring, a lot of players are going to opt out because that is prime for when the draft happens.
They're working out for the combine and things like that.
And then you got that, and then if they were to play through, still get drafted and being able to play in college, like there's probably going to have to be an accepting, allowing the NFL allowing college players to do that. Like, okay, if you're drafted, you can still finish the college season, and then they go right in the training camp next season. I mean, it's nonstop football for
Trevor
those
Lawrence
guys.
gets picked at 1.
Yep.
They say you can finish out your season and tears his ACL in the championship game.
Yeah. I mean, it's mind blowing to think about all these situations. It's so mind blowing, and it's just I don't think I can't even think straight thinking about it because like I get excited about the roster, like the week to week decisions you have, like that excites me. I love Saturdays, just going through my lineups, like okay, that one's good, and then the Thursday night right before a Thursday night game, like I love that, like deciding, okay, do I want to start the Thursday night guy or do I want to start Sunday? That is like one of my favorite things about fantasy. But it's going to get more extreme this year because I mean, you could say, okay, I'm going to start a Sunday guy instead of a Thursday.
There's the thing is normally you might say, oh, you know what? I'm not starting the Thursday night guy. I'll start the Sunday night guy. But if you have a guy that you know is going to play on Thursday, I'm just going to take the points. Yeah. Because what if this guy ends up having a positive test in this 4 days?
Yeah. And then you hear about the 3-week long period that a player is going to be out for if they test positive.
And then we put on the commissioner exempt list as the plan and it doesn't matter how long, it'll just be however long they need. It looks like.
Yeah. And so as a commissioner, you're going to want to put more IR spots for people. You're going to want to make it easier for owners as well, this COVID thing, because if multiple big name players go out, you also need to, as a commissioner, to help these guys still have a decent starting lineup just because they're getting hit with this terrible thing going on. I mean, say you have
think this season's going to come down to more luck than anything.
Yeah. I mean, if you draft a team like your Scott Fishbowl team and you have maybe one COVID incident, you're going to walk away feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All those people doing those stacks. What if like you had like 4 Cowboys and like 3 of them get it? Like,
Just once somebody on the team gets it, it's going to start running through the team. But I think this is also the most important year to have your handcuffs.
Even quarterbacks.
Yeah. It's because while I do agree that if let's say Dak Prescott has a positive COVID test, we know that Zeke already had it, but let's say Dak comes in, has a positive COVID test. It'd be great to have Dalton as long as Dalton also didn't get it. But like Doug said, if
he has red hair, remember, he doesn't get it.
True, yeah. COVID doesn't like redheads. But if Dak gets it, Andy Dalton and him are standing beside each other all day in practice. They're sitting in the same quarterback room. More than likely, it's going to run through that room pretty quickly. Most of the people in that room are probably going to get it. So
bring in Cooper Rush off the street.
So I also do want to say, like, you hear rumors of how much this spreads, but there are scenarios where one person can get it and nobody else around him can. Like there's going to be incidences where that happens because, I don't want to be all negative here. So say an offensive lineman gets it, there's still a good possibility nobody else that he has touched gets it.
Good.
I mean,
that would be best case scenario.
And what if they make the linemen, wear masks? You see baseball players wearing it. It doesn't affect your oxygen intake. They've done tests.
I've seen Oakley has they make the visors already. They made another face shield that goes in the bottom part of the face mask that they say will not allow droplets in or out of the mask. But I've also seen guys like J.J. Watt himself saying whoever created this obviously didn't play football in Southern Texas in August. I've never worn one. I can't
It's also in an air-conditioned stadium, so like whatever, JJ.
Yeah, but they practice outside and things like that. So it's gotta be rough. Because again, I've been in full combat gear in a desert with a gas mask on. That sucks.
It's hot.
Yeah. Today,
make it hot.
Walking into a grocery store or something, having to put a mask on. I know I can do it. I've done it before in worse conditions. It's just, it stinks. So when you're this football player that's played your entire life without something right here.
Oh yeah.
Putting something right there, it's more up here than anything, and it's just going to mess some of these guys up.
Trust me. I mean, I wear my mask every night. I work at a hospital. I have to wear a mask every night. And going up flights of steps, like there's areas where you can take off your mask, and that like some flights of stairs are. So like when I'm walking up a flight of steps where I have to wear a mask, it is extremely different from when I have to wear and when I don't have to wear a mask. Like it's extremely different. The actual breath of air that you can take without a mask is extremely different than with one. But I mean, it's going to happen. There's going to be players that get it. There's going to be players that don't get hurt by it. You know, they're not extremely affected. Maybe they get a fever for a couple of days and then they develop the antibodies. So if we're looking at it in a positive aspect, if a player does get it and he recovers, 2021 looks positive for that guy because we are not looking at just 2020 for this whole thing.
Yeah.
We are looking for 2021. We are looking at 2022. I mean, I've heard there's vaccines, but I mean, we've got to look at this as a long-term thing, and that sucks to even talk about. But
that's why Zeke's the guy. He's already had it.
Zeke is a superhero in this damn fantasy football. That's why I took him at one.
He went out. He sacrificed himself. He got it early so he could get it out of the way, and he could come into the season and say, you know what, fantasy owners, you don't got to worry about me catching COVID and ruining the lineups. So
I got you.
Yep.
Tyler talked about, you know, maybe refunding the money to owners, just rolling things over, things like that. How long of a season would you have to have? Would it have to be a complete season? 6 weeks, and you'd be willing to crown a champ? How would you do that? Would it be an all-play record?
Not crown a champ. I would say 6 weeks for draft order. I mean, if you have 6 weeks and you kind of look at the standings, you should be
regular season almost.
Yeah.
So how long till you would count it as a season and crown a champion?
I would probably say 8 to 10 ish.
Okay.
That seems reasonable. I mean, if there's 10 weeks and somebody's like 9-1.
Okay. Anything. Well, you can also institute an all-play record in your leagues.
That's true.
You can go off that. You can go off total points, things like that. Just ideas for commissioners out there. If you got guys that say, "Hey, look, we played 8 weeks. I was 7-1. You know, whatever." But you throw up an all-play record. Maybe that guy ends up being, 4-3, 4-4.
We got old buddy pal Tim Torch. He says you could do a weighted auction for rookie draft with 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. It's great idea actually, Mr. Torch. So Tyler, anything less than 8 weeks, you said you're not willing to, crown a champion here. Would you take the trophy you got at TrophySmack.com and have, 2020 champion COVID-19 etched into it?
I don't know if I would champion COVID-19.
Put an asterisk on it.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd even put an asterisk. I think if there's no season, I would probably just skip it. I mean,
it's gonna look so weird on the trophy.
My OCD is gonna go nuts.
Yeah, but I can't do it for my home league.
I don't know that I would want it if I won the league. I'd be like, it wouldn't feel satisfying. Like, oh, I won a trophy in 8 weeks.
I mean, how about this? If you were to have 6 weeks and the season ends, and say you don't want to crown a champion, take that money and put it to charity.
Okay.
FantasyCares.net.
Wow, so, Tim, your response says you're against charity. Okay, Tim is against. I'm totally.
You know what? Let's go. I'm against charity. All of it. No, big heel turn. The hell was I going to say? You threw me way off.
You turned into NWO Hogan there for a second.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say something about crowning a champion, putting something. Yeah, I know my home league. We've had this trophy since 9 years now. Having a missed year on there is just gonna look so weird. I'd want to put something on there. Doug said about if let's say we go 8 weeks. Doug's the points leader, the all-play leader, whatever we want to do.
I think that will happen.
We put Doug, the fantasy father, and then an asterisk by his name. You'd say, I don't even know if I'd want it at that point. The NHL is getting ready to set up.
I wouldn't feel good about it.
The NHL is getting ready to set up a Stanley Cup playoff thing for the top whatever teams that were remaining after they cut short the regular season. Do you think that team that wins the Stanley Cup this year is going to say, hey, we here, you can have it back?
Yeah, I've played almost all the regular season games in NHL.
So if you got to week 8 and you were 7-1.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, if you got to week,
but they're also playing a playoff to decide who wins
Yeah.
the champion. You wouldn't be in that position.
I mean, how about this?
So we all know
Yeah,
that
we
like, you
playoff,
can be
baby.
great, but once you make the playoffs in fantasy, you could lose. The
How
first
about
week or
this?
the second
You
week.
guys all play Madden, and it decides the championship.
Oh man, I haven't played
Just sim
Madden
it
in
out.
so long. I'd be out early.
So I honestly, I think
Or you
we-
just sim the games every week and then face the fantasy.
Yeah, you move the rosters around so those actual players on your fantasy squad are all on one team, and
No. You
actually
play
play
an
the
actual
season,
NFL
yeah.
week, and then you use the
Oh,
stats
use
based
those
on
stats.
this. Like, oh,
That's
Mahomes passed for 4 touchdowns. and
not
then you do it
terrible.
that way.
that is not terrible. It would take a lot of work, but it is actually not a terrible idea.
It's in the
And
game. It's in the game, right? Like,
I told my friend. So, I think that if there's no football, I think I have a greater chance at buying Madden. I bought Madden since 2001.
I
Every
skipped
year,
it last year.
every year I've bought it. I've been stuck. So honestly, I think this year I'm not going to, unless there's no football. That
Well,
is,
you have to buy it now in order to sim the season, so you have stats for your fantasy.
it's
league.
not out yet. So,
It'll be out soon.
but no, that's not a bad idea. Like if you're really
If they don't get the season off the ground, I think I'm taking that idea, Doug.
if you are itching for fantasy and there's no season, buy Madden, sim each week on Sunday. Like sim the games when they should happen.
It's a
your
lot of
Thursday
pen and
nighter.
paperwork.
I'll
That's
do
going to
it.
be a lot
I'll
of
do
paperwork.
it. I'll enter it into a spreadsheet.
What about you know what would be fun is if the injuries happen in the game.
Oh,
They
yeah.
happen in your team.
But then what do you? Everything's got to turn to best ball.
He's out for the year. Like,
Yep, everything would have to turn to best ball if you go that route. I mean, you can't submit a
Why?
lineup. I mean, you could submit a lineup compared to the injuries. Yeah, I mean, this could work.
I mean, they already
They
have
would
the
have to
schedules
submit the
out, so you
lineup.
just say, okay,
yeah.
you create spreadsheets to count the stats for the players. You know, just sim the season out.
I mean,
Nice.
It can be done.
It still doesn't take the rush out from getting that sleeper alert saying this guy ran for 85 yards and a touchdown. I
And
mean,
that week
you
you
know
have
we-
a bad
you know
week,
we-
you're just gonna freak out. This stupid game sucks. Ugh.
And if you wouldn't get hit for copyright, I would love to just like, oh, here's the game of the week, and then just do the announcing over it from a fantasy perspective. That would be awesome.
I mean, it's an interesting idea, but let's. I still think football's going to happen because Roger Goodell won't allow it to not happen.
I think it's gonna happen
players have
for
the
a
final
little
say.
bit, and then it's gonna go away.
My thinking is that we have Keanu Reeves come in, and he becomes a replacement.
The
Now,
replacements.
this just came to me. This was not
James
a movie
Bell,
or
though,
anything.
You've never
Jogging onto the field.
completely original idea by
Completely
Tyler.
original. You get replacement players. You know,
Okay.
one does well,
The guy
And
that
then-
can't catch. Gotta have
and
him out
then
there.
maybe he retires and
the
becomes
Irish
like
kicker that has betting debts.
yeah, and then maybe he just retires halfway through when the season kicks back off, and he becomes like a fisherman type
There
guy.
you go. He lives on a boat, maybe.
Lives on
Just
a
maybe.
boat.
You never know.
Yeah,
Whatever.
With one of the cheerleaders that
Yeah.
came. Yeah, original idea.
I think you're onto something, Tyler. I think you're really onto something. So any
Happy
final
piano.
thoughts? Yes. Any final thoughts on preparing for COVID-19 with whether it's your rosters or just anything in general before we wrap up?
I think I would try to do what Tim Torch is doing and stack 8, 20, 21 firsts, like he has in the UDPL 2.0.
Yeah, I mean it's a smart, it's smart idea, but who knows who's actually going to be in the 2021 class? Like, who
Everybody.
knows who knows if we're alive?
When Tim Torch was in UDPL 1.0.
Who knows if there's going to be an Earth in 2021 with how everything's going?
Apocalypse is nigh, I'm telling you. Yeah. So yeah, you could definitely stack 2021 first if you wanted to. I don't hate that. Stack seconds too, they're cheaper. It's going to be a deep class supposedly. We'll see what happens. It's just there's just so much unknown that we're stepping into, and so much it's not going to be shocking for just crazy things to happen this season. So we're just here to tell you, like, try to be as prepared as you can for it.
How about this?
You know, there's going to be go ahead.
How about this? Let's enjoy the fact that we actually might see players in pads this week. I mean, we need the
That's
NFL to step forward and have a plan. I think they are working hard at making this plan. I know players are saying, we want to play. Mark Andrews has come out saying my type 1 diabetes is not going to stop me from playing. So that's good news. And I mean, if the NFL has a plan, there's going to be football. If they have a plan, there will be football. And let's look at it in that aspect of training camps are starting.
They're very optimistic.
They're supposed to be starting. Let's move ahead. Let's say, okay, there is football. Let's trade in our leagues like there's going to be football. Let's look at there's going to be football until we actually hear there isn't. So I want to bring some positive to this whole negative world that we're living in. So let's have football
on this
happen.
Week's episode of That's So Minnesotan.
I was going to say that Midwest optimism, this you have two co-hosts that are just East Coast pessimists, like
shaking their head. The worst is going to
happen. Everything's going to burn to the ground.
They've got wet blankets. They got wet blankets thrown around everywhere. So honestly, like I said, training camp starts this week. Rookies are supposed to report. They're going to get tested first, then come in, report. Quarterbacks, and then the 28th players will come in. The 28th is still 9 days away. So let's look at it in this way. NFL has 9 days to figure out what the hell they're going to do. Let's get it done, NFL. You guys have tons of rich, smart people at hand. Let's get it figured out. Let's move ahead. Let's get football going, and let's have a fun, enjoyable season. Let's have something that takes away from all this negativity.
My fingers are crossed, and my toes are crossed, and I'm crossing everything. But you know what I'm not crossing? I'm not crossing my balls. And remember to get 20% off and free shipping with the code DHH at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code DHH. Thank you to them for our sponsorship this week. I'm looking forward to using some of their products and give you like a little test. Maybe we'll pull up a Periscope with live footage. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
But I am
the
looking
weed
forward
whacker.
to
The weed whackers. I have the weed whacker already, and that is phenomenal. I mean, if you have some nose hairs are the worst. I have allergies, and man, the allergens get stuck in the nose hairs. That thing.
Once you hit over 40, nose and ear hairs,
dude,
comes out of nowhere.
40.
What is this?
I'm like the oldest 33-year-old then. But I mean, that weed whacker takes your hair out. It goes in, bing, bang, boom, done.
Bing, bang. And just like that, bing, bang, boom, I think we're done. Thank you for listening to Dynasty Happy Hour. If you tuned in on YouTube and Periscope, thank you very much for that as well. Make sure you head over to dynastyhappyhour.com and check out the website. We've got rankings. You can do your own custom rankings on there as well. And you can see multiple different analysts on there and check them out. Make sure you go on iTunes, Google Play. You can get your podcast, subscribe, leave a review if you can. Always helps us out. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you didn't like. We're always willing to make changes within reason. So, we're reasonable people. We'll do some new stuff if we have to. Except Tim, I'm not doing anything new. He's like, I already got a new house. I've got all sorts of new stuff. So Tim's out, but Tyler and I will try to help you out. So once again, thank you for tuning in. This has been Dynasty Happy Hour. We'll see you next week.